Hi, and welcome to this example video for my Calculating Net Pay resource. You can find the resource on TPT at fieducator.store. But if you're watching this, you're probably a teacher who's coming to look and see a full walkthrough example of what this is going to look like. So let's get straight to it. You're going to need the worksheet, so each student can have a separate one, or they can all work on the same one. It doesn't really matter. There's a big variety of options within the resource. So figure out who is getting what, and then you're going to need your tax tables that goes with it. I like printing it on 2 pages. I know it is wasteful of paper, but it's nice that students don't have to flip over and backwards to get their tax tables. And you just want to make sure that each student has the correct tax table. So I have 2 states per tax table. This person is state of Maryland, so I have the Maryland tax table document ready to go. Now this one is another document you can get on TPT on the fieducator.store. Or if you have the calculated income tax bundle, you have this in your bundle somewhere. It's a blank generic document which just kind of offers the guide sheet for calculating each of the brackets. Students can do this on rough work paper. They don't need to have this, but I do find it helps with structuring what students are doing. All right, so where do we start? Key information we're gonna need. Salary is $84,700, getting paid semi-monthly. So semi-monthly means twice a month, so that will be 24 paychecks. We can kind of fill that in down here now while we're here. We have gross income, $84,700. So $84,700 will go into those 2 boxes. And then we are filing single, so some of the sheets will be filing married, some will be filing single. State of Maryland, and we've got Social Security, Medicare, federal, and state. We are also putting 12 grand into a traditional 401k. So come over to the traditional 401k, and we're gonna put 12,000 in there. There's also in Maryland, I need to add this box in, so 12,000 can come out here as well. So we're gonna have traditional being deducted from our state as well for Maryland. Some states do, some states do not. Pennsylvania, for example, does not allow it, Maryland does. And then just make sure you have your 2023 numbers. If you bought the resource this year, you have that. If you're dealing with 2022, then make sure you look for the 2022 numbers. All right, getting started, we've got our gross pay, which gets multiplied by 1.45% to do Medicare. So we have 84700 times, and to get the percentage into a decimal, you divide by 100. So that would be 0.0145, so 1228.15. That also goes down here in the summary areas. This is like just a nice summary box to make sure that students have everything they need to do their paychecks. Okay, Social Security, same number, 84,700. So you go back to your salary for this, your gross pay, times 0.062. So this is 5251.40. And these 2 are our FICA taxes. Now they're not technically part of the federal income tax. I just have them in here as like something that is deducted from everyone's paycheck, and it's great for students to see it when they're doing taxes. Standard deduction. So this one, you look at your tax tables, look for the federal standard deduction for 2023 for someone who's filing single. So that'll be $13,850 for 2023. All right, so then our federal taxable income is going to be our gross pay minus the standard deduction minus traditional contributions. So that's what reduces our taxable income. The FICA taxes does not reduce your taxable income in any way. So again, gross pay minus standard deduction minus traditional 401k. And this is where our calculating income tax sheet can be very handy. So if you do the federal side, you can see like, okay, I've got my salary up here of 84,700. Medicare, Social Security, I'm not gonna calculate those again, but 84,700 minus the standard deduction, so 13,850 minus the 12,000 traditional contribution. So it gives that structure that students sometimes need for just figuring this stuff out rather than having to know and understand and remember that, okay, I don't take these out, but I do gross pay minus those two. So this is that kind of building block to help them get there. So 84,700 minus 13,850 minus 12,000. So we have 58,850. So that is our federal taxable income. I'm going to fill that in here. 58,850. Okay, so now we're into the federal income tax. We're going to tax $58,850. That is our taxable income as far as the federal government is concerned. We have multiple brackets. Each bracket we fill up as much as we can until we can't fill up anymore, and that is our highest income bracket that we're going to have. So when we look at our federal income tax brackets, we've got a 10, a 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37% bracket. Most people are going to be in like the first half of this. So like a salary of under 200K basically is going to be 24% or lower. And I would imagine most Americans are going to be coming in there. So let's start with this. Your first $11,000, so 0 to 11,000, goes in the 10% bracket. So we got taxable income, 5,850. And the max that this bracket can hold is 11,000. That's 0 to 11,000. So it's coming from that higher number here. So this bracket holds 11,000. Our taxable income is greater than that, so we're going to fill this up completely. So we'll put 11,000 in here. Tax it at 10%. So that'll be $1,100 is taxes owed at the 10% bracket. So on our calculate net pay sheet, the first bracket, the taxes owed is $1,100. So then we go for the second bracket of 12%. Now we've already taxed 11,000. So that's why the bracket says from 11 to 44. The way you figure out how big the bracket is you subtract those two numbers, the difference between them. So we got 44,725 minus 11,000. 33,725 is the size of this bracket. So 33,725. That is the max amount the 12% bracket can hold. So 33,725. We've already taxed 11,000, so we bring that 11,000 down here. That's what the arrow is for. And 58 minus 11 would be 47. And then we still have 850 left over. 47,850 is greater than the max amount the bracket can hold, so we're still going to fill this up again. So we put the full 33,725 in here and tax at 12%. 33,725 times 0.12, 4047. And I do appreciate that this year, the income tax amounts, when you fill up the brackets and you multiply it by the percentage, you don't get like a 50 cents or any change really. It's all still whole numbers, which is very handy. So coming in here, second bracket, 4047. And then the third bracket, so we gotta subtract out what we've taxed already, 33,725. So 47,850 minus 33,725. We have 14,125 left to tax. The 22% bracket, when we look at it, so it would be 95,375 minus what we've taxed already. So 95,375 minus 44,725 is 50,650. So this bracket can hold 50,650. We only have 14,000 left. So all of this is going to go in. So it's less than the amount that it can hold. So we're going to have 14,125, and that gets taxed at 22%. So that's what it means to be in the 22% bracket, is that some of your income is reaching the 22% bracket. You're filling up the previous brackets, and then some of it gets taxed at 22. 14,125 times 0.22, 310750. All right, so that is our 22% bracket, 3107.50 cents. So we do have some change in this one. There's nothing in the additional brackets because we have taxed the max. So 14,125, there's nothing left to tax. We've taxed all of our income at this point. So on your calculate net pay sheet or on the federal one, we add up the total federal income tax. So how much federal income tax we paid. So that'll be 1100 plus 4047 plus 3107.50, 8254 and 50 cents. And the QR code over here that you can see, if students scan that, they get a video showing me go through a federal income tax calculation like this on this particular sheet. So they'll see, how I found the max bracket size, how I taxed part of it, and then what was left over was what went into the last bracket. So do encourage your students to check out those YouTube links to see what it is that they need to do for this if they're not sure. So that resource is there. Now it will be an example that's not their current sheet, so it won't give them the answers, but it will show them how to do it. All right, so we're going into state, and this is the state of Maryland. Our standard deduction for Maryland, we go back to our tax tables again. So Maryland is here. Down at the bottom is the standard deductions. So a single person in Maryland is $2,550. So we got $2,550. Now, Maryland, the state, will look at your gross income, your full income or salary again. So regardless of what you paid to the federal government, Maryland goes back to the big number. So you get to take out your standard deduction, you get to deduct traditional contributions, and you get your taxable income. And just once again, if you flip over your calculate income tax guide sheet, there is a state side as well, and that can help guide us through this as well. So our salary was $84,700, so $84,700 minus the state standard deduction, which we said was $2,550, minus any traditional retirement contributions, and we get our state taxable income. So let's see, we got 84700 minus 2550 minus 12,000. 70,150. And that's going to be our state taxable income. So this is what the state of Maryland is going to tax. So they actually have a higher taxable income than the federal government does. But when we look at the tax percentages, they have a much lower tax rate than the federal government does. So it kind of balances out a little bit. All right, so for Maryland, the first bracket is a 2% bracket. The first 3 brackets in Maryland are quite small. Every state is different. Some states have a flat tax rate where they just have one bracket and that's it. There's one percentage, everyone pays the same percentage. Some have smaller brackets, like Virginia, you can see here, has less, Maryland has more. The highest is Hawaii. Hawaii is like 12. But all the examples in my Calculate Net Pay resource are from Virginia, Maryland, Pennsylvania, Ohio, New York, and California, so those 6 states. And they should all fit on within the state sheet that I provided, or I think it's 10 brackets is the max for New York. So our taxable income is $70,150. I think that goes in here as well. Yep, $70,150. The first bracket we said for Maryland is 2%, and we can kind of fill the rest of those in now. So 2, 3, 4, and 4.75. And on our state sheet, we can do the exact same thing. So 2, 3, 4, and 4.75. We could go higher, but when you look at the brackets, the majority of people in Maryland are probably paying the 4.75%. So if your income's between like 0 to, or 3 to whatever, 100,000 plus the standard deduction, so 102,000, you're gonna be paying probably the 4.75% bracket. So majority of people in there, a couple of smaller brackets, and then the rest are ending up in the 5.75 plus. So for us, we only have taxable income of 70, so I know we're gonna stop in between 3 and 100,000. All right, the first bracket holds 0 to 1,000, so it holds $1,000. The second bracket is 1,000 to 2,000, also $1,000, and 2,000 to 3,000, so also $1,000. And just note, this one's written a little differently than the federal one is. It's like your first 1,000 goes in the second bracket, and the $1,001 to the $2,000 goes in here. Just because like if you had 1,000, you'd be like, well, which bracket does it go into? So when I see Maryland do their tables, they do 1,001. So when you do the amount of money in here, it's really this number minus what you've taxed already. So 2,000 minus 1,000. So this one holds 1,000. 1,000, 3 minus 2 is also 1,000, and then 1,000 minus, or 100,000 minus 3 is 97,000. All right, let's start doing those calculations. So 70,000 is greater than 1,000. So we're gonna put 1,000 in here. 1,000 times 0.2 is $20. We've taxed 1,000. So now we have 69,150. Still bigger than 1,000. So we're gonna put 1,000 in again. 1,000 times 3, $30. And this is 3%. So I guess if we want it as a decimal, it would be 0.02, 0.03, 0.04. This is decimal, would be 0.0475. So if you needed it written that way, that's what I'm multiplying by. Drop 1,000 down again because we've taxed it. So now I have 68,150 left. Still bigger than 1,000, so 1,000 goes in again. 1,000 times 0.4 is 40. And this is what most people pay. There's this kind of $90 plus whatever's in the next bracket. Maryland's very repetitive in that way. So then we have 67,150. Now this is less than 97,000, so all of our income is gonna go in here. 67,150. So I got 67,150 times 0.0475, and that's 3,189, and I've got 62.5 cents. Now what I know from talking to different government agencies is that they will round this to the nearest whole cent, so this would become 0.63. So that's 3,189.63. And we've taxed everything, so 67,150. So there is nothing left. We're done with the state of Maryland. We add up our total taxes paid, and that will be our total for Maryland. So I have 20 plus 30 plus 40 plus 3,189.63. So that's 3,279.63. Now I do have to transfer this over. So on my sheet here, the 2% bracket held 20, the 3% one held 30, 40, and 3,189.63. Nothing in the additional brackets, and the total was 3,279.63. All right, so let's transfer those over to our summary side. The federal income tax was 8,254.50 cents. Maryland's was 3,279.63. So remaining income, I'm gonna subtract those and see what's left. So we should have 84,700 minus 1,228.15 minus 5,251.4 minus 8,254.5 minus 3,279.63. So I've got 66686.32. So remaining income 66686.32. I don't have any Roth contributions, all traditional, so 0 goes in here. So my net income stays the exact same. So this is how much you are bringing home per year. And then we said getting paid semi-monthly was 24 paychecks. So if I divide this number by 24, I get 2,778 and 59 and 2/3 cents, so 60 cents. So 2,778.60 would be my paycheck amount. So very handy tool to have for getting students to kind of figure out how their income is taxed. It's not perfect. I mean, there's so many other deductions, credits that could come in here, but it's a great kind of tool for just seeing like, hey, how do the brackets work? And approximately what would I expect an income to be if I were making this amount of money? Thank you so much for stopping by. If you have any questions, please send me an email at thefieducator@gmail.com. And again, if you don't have this resource and you want to check it out, you can find it at fieducator.store. Thanks so much for stopping by.